Welcome back. You are watching the front row. We just have about 10 minutes to finish up the show. And I keep saying this is your show too. So let's get some of your thoughts. I understand we have Ahmed from Wajir. We are talking about the high cost of living, the rise in fuel prices and the ripple effect therein that we're witnessing. Kenya finds itself in a hole. How do we climb out? As a lot of experts are saying, we seem to be digging into a hole that we're already into. But let's listen to what Ahmed has to say. Ahmed is from Wajir. I understand we have him on the line. Ahmed, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on the front row.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you are doing good and the panel are doing fine too. Yeah, thank you, Wakisa.
So let's get your thoughts on the topic.
Yeah, Wakisa, with me, I'll just tell the panel one thing. We have nothing to celebrate in this country. Yeah, we have nothing to celebrate in this country. Hello, are you getting me? Hello?
But I think he made his point. Can you hear me, Ahmed?
Yeah, I'm getting you, Wakisa.
Yes, just finish your point.
There's nothing happening in this country. This is not a country to be. I think even we should look for our justice. We should just come out of what is there. My friend, this thing is not good. Life is very high, and as you know, this government is not even willing to live ordinary Kenyans.
All right, thank you, Ahmed. We hear you. And I think a lot of it has been alluded to here by the panel on the strains that the current, the common Kenyan are facing, and we'll be coming back to them when we get back. We only have 10 minutes to go. And I want us to quickly talk about, so then we find ourselves in this situation. We've talked about some of the ways we can get out of it, some of the options that we have. You've talked about how we can expand that tax bracket and, put it in place. I'm told we have another caller, so let's get Godana. Godana from Isiolo before I finish up that question. Godana, good evening.
Good evening, madam. How are you?
I'm very fine. Thank you for joining us here on the front row.
Yeah, I'm calling you from Isiolo. My nickname is Mangidi Oloba.
Okay.
Yeah, Godana Molu.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm calling you from Isiolo.
Yes. What's your contribution to the topic?
Yeah, I'm joining you, madam, from Isiolo.
Yes, we got that part. Okay, a lot of distractions. But back to the question I wanted to ask Irene, that Kenya seems to not be having a proper national tax policy. Our taxation is very unpredictable. What do we need to do to straighten that out? And what would a national tax policy look like for us?
True, that has also been something that the Treasury has mentioned, and there's progress towards that. But in terms of what you've mentioned, how should a tax policy for Kenya look like? One, for me, would be to reduce illicit financial flows. So I think our tax policy would be one that looks at how you really do not focus on just the citizens within your country, but there's also quite a bit of revenue that seeps out of our country. So how do we also have our eyes on that rather than just focusing on your citizens themselves? Secondly, then, is the issues around equity and fairness. So when we tax, are the ones with more resources also carrying their fair share of tax, rather than taxing the people who really did rely on essential services. And of course, I think we must have a tax policy that also tries to, how do I call it, to kind of reward anyone or anyone that then ensures that we are netting in and bringing in sufficient. But above all, a tax policy that is heavy on efficiency. How do we also make advantage of technology so that we do not have I've seen KRA recently just saying we're employing more people. So are we then also contributing to wage bill in a sense? So how much does it cost us to collect the revenue that we are after? So the cost benefit also of bringing in the tax is also something we must address.
Yes, what would a proper tax policy look like for us?
Progressive. It needs to be as progressive as possible. In other words, what do we mean by progressive? That it needs to take into consideration those who are at the bottom of the pyramid and accord them opportunity to grow, to save, to invest, so that then they can also get to the middle class. So then the tax policy needs to appreciate the realities that are there, because a non-progressive tax regime would tax the people at the bottom of the pyramid more and tax the people at the top of the pyramid less.
It's interesting. It's a conversation that's even ongoing in the US on taxing people at the top more.
Yeah, it needs to happen, because you see, people at the top have a lot of disposable income. They are looking for investment opportunities, but more often than not, they have more money in their account, as opposed to people at the bottom of the pyramid who do not have enough income or even money in their account. And so when you tax the people at the bottom of the pyramid, you're doing harm to someone who's already wounded, as opposed to the other way around. There's already, in fact, in place what we call the poverty tax, because, for example, the energy that we use in a place like Kibera would be more expensive than the energy that someone in Karen is using, and inefficient, actually, because of the poverty tax. And so that is why then the taxation regime needs to be progressive. Beyond that also, I agree that there is need for serious governance measures that ensure, one, less corruption in KRA. I had someone say that we devolved the operations and tax collection of KRA. I think it's significantly devolved. KRA has stations across the country. They have hardly anyone goes to head office now. They have the technology that allows for you to just do a business with them from wherever you are. And so that is already significantly devolved. But in terms of governance and ensuring that the people responsible for revenue collection are responsible indeed, then I think that needs to be put into place so that our revenue collected is in fact what ought to be collected. Of course, there is need to reduce wastage and illicit financial flows. In the years past, there was this piracy that brought in a lot of dollars from across the border into the economy, and that somehow affected our economy in one way or another. There is still some illicit financial flows that is coming in, even after we have fought hard against money laundering. You still see stories of people printing money from their bedrooms.
Wash.
Yes. So then that is affecting the economy in one way or another, because it's going to push inflation up and a lot of money chasing very few goods, and there's no production happening. So for me, that is also significant. But moving forward, I still insist, we can reduce our wage bill, we can actually reduce our deficits. Our budget deficits need to be reduced so that we forget these feel-good investments into mabarabara ya gorofa, you know, and look at really the human development indices in the country.
Let's get your closing remarks. How do we make this work for us, for the mamamboga, for the guy who runs a small business? How do we make it work for us?
Just as we've said, in terms of the space to have lower taxation is something we've been advocating for, but not something that we perceive can happen very fast because of already issues around debt and other underlying issues. But what we as a country need to push for is that then government does not leave its key role in providing public services. So what we have noted is that as government increases tax collection, it has also been reducing its support to public services. So look at NHIF within the pandemic saying we cannot take care of, you know, anything, some ailments connected with COVID-19.
Right.
So the push is that as a country, if government continues to insist on increasing the taxes, we also must insist that public services are then not neglected, because the people at the bottom of the pyramid, like Mr. Odhiambo was saying, essentially depend on public services. So when public services are not at the optimum level and they are still paying taxes, it's in a sense double taxation. So that is what I would say as taxpayers we must push, reduce, hopefully be able to reduce taxation or have fairer tax systems, but essentially that significant part of the taxes is applied for public services. Then it would also motivate taxpayers if they are to pay.
Right, that's a good place to end. Thank you very much for engaging with us. I don't think I have much time to go through your comments at this time, but thank you for engaging with us, calling in, tweeting, sending messages. It's a conversation we'll keep having, and I think we'll have you back here as we see how things unfold. Odhiambo Ramogi is an economist. Asante sana for joining us here on the front row. And Irene Otieno is a regional coordinator at the National Taxpayers Association. Thank you. We appreciate your presence here, just helping us break down some of these issues for our viewers. I am Akisa Ondera. I'll see you next time here on the front row.